Hey, welcome back, my friends. My name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Title podcast. There's three different ways of thinking about things, and I think it's really important that we understand how that affects our day-to-day lives, how that affects who we become in the future. And the first one is there's things that we believe that we know to be true as in facts. And these tend to be, scientific. You can measure gravity, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You can prove that. We know the speed of light, and the thing we know to be facts is increasing. There's things that we know to be true because we have faith. And with these, it's almost opposite of facts in the sense that we can't prove these, but we just know they're true. And many times when we talk about faith, it's religion. But I also think it's things like love. Like, I truly have faith that there's a connection of love between me and my kids and my wife, my family, that is stronger than any bond that I could ever imagine. And there's no way for me to prove that to you, at least, So we have this world full of faith. And I think the facts and the faith are very important in our lives. But I think most of the things that we know are beliefs. And this is what I want to spend a little bit of time on. And I had never heard it broken down into three categories like this, and it really helped me understand the concept that there's things that we deal with on a daily basis. There's the decisions we make. Most of them are based on what we believe. And sometimes what we believe is not true. And so my goal with this today is that you could open up your mind a little bit and believe that you're operating on a system of beliefs, and those beliefs could either not be true at all. They could be true in the past. They could be alternatives to what you believe. And so the first ones I think are probably not as serious, and then I'll get to a few that are. Like, in my life, if you had asked me as a 25-year-old man, what are your thoughts about country music? I would have said, I hate country music. That was my belief. I did not like country music. And I'm very thankful that I have developed the ability to change my mind. And that's really what this podcast is going to be about, is changing your mind. I believe I didn't like country music. And then I heard Chris Stapleton, and I thought, oh my word, what is this guy? And if you look him up on the country charts, or on the music charts, it's under country. And I had this little internal battle in my mind with, am I a guy that likes country music? Like, does that change who I am? And I still don't know if I've been able to wrap my mind completely around that, because now, if you ask me, do you like country music? I say, well, whatever Chris Stapleton is, I like that. Now, I don't like, Way Down Yonder by the Chattahoochee. That is not, I don't think I'm ever going to be a Garth Brooks fan. But Chris Stapleton is amazing. Because I like Chris Stapleton, it took me to Stephen Wilson Jr. That guy is amazing. The music he writes is just unbelievable. And because I was willing to change my mind, I was willing to have a better life and be exposed to things that, that have made me, I don't know if saying I'm a better person, but the music is really good. The words are really good, and I'm so thankful I was able to do that. It's interesting, in the fire service, we cook for each other, and that's not a normal thing. I don't think you go to most jobs and people are making food for each other. We have guys that come in that say, I don't like to eat that. And I was a very picky eater, and I'm still a little bit picky eater, but there was things that guys made that I was like, I don't like that. Like, I remember I didn't like gravy, like sausage gravy. I didn't like it. Now, I had never seen anybody make gravy. And then the first time I'm at work and a guy puts a bunch of sausage in there, and then he adds some flour to the sausage and the oil and a little bit of milk, and then he puts that on a biscuit, and I tried it, and I went, oh, this is amazing. And because my belief was I didn't like it, and I think I just didn't know what it was. It looked kind of weird to me. And now all of a sudden I like sausage bacon or sausage biscuits. It's so good. Be willing to change your mind. Now, I haven't been like this, but I have some friends that have literally, we have one friend that travels all the time. He is at a new island, once a month. And I have a friend that said, what a waste of time. I can't believe he would spend all that money just to travel to some other island. And in my head, I'm like, are you serious? Like, and the problem is this guy has had a few poor experiences flying on planes. And so he thinks he hates flying. And it's just, he just has the wrong mindset. And I guess maybe that's my belief, that if you don't enjoy traveling, you have the wrong mindset. You see how this can weigh on you. Like my belief is that if you don't think traveling is awesome, there's something wrong with you. And this is kind of what I'm getting at, the fact that, we have to be willing to, see other people's point of view and see the world from a different point of view. Because if we don't, we end up getting stuck. Another place where a lot of people have belief in is that they have bad luck. I had an experience with a family member where they were talking about Dumas luck and how it was bad. It was something that had happened to us, and I just don't feel like that. And my family member's life has been dramatically put at a disadvantage because every time something bad happens to him, he internalized that as that something that's wrong with him, and his bad luck will allow bad things to happen. And I don't believe that. I think you can make your own luck. I think sometimes we win, we win stupid games when you play stupid prizes. Like, that is a belief I have. It's important. One of the places where I think a belief can be very dangerous is that when we have beliefs, and when we talk about people, I think the better word is bias. We have bias towards certain types of people. I see this in my life at work, and thankfully I had some older firefighters that explained this to me. I work in a predominantly minority-based community. And African American is the number one population in the city that I work in. And someone explained to me that I need to be very careful with my thoughts towards the African American community. And what they explained, and it makes so much sense, and it's so powerful, is that as a firefighter, and this happens probably to cops even more than firefighters, my interaction, and probably more as a paramedic, my interaction with the people in the city that I work in was that they called us for every medical problem that you could ever imagine. Things that other people would not call us for, they are calling us for. So they're calling us for a stub toe. They're calling us because they broke their arm and it hurts. Yeah, you broke your arm. They're calling us for all these different things. And it would be easy to say that, African Americans are ignorant and that they don't have common sense, that you should just go see a doctor. And thankfully, I had wise firefighters saying, listen, the people who are calling you are the ones who have low education. They have low income. They do not have a car. They don't have access to a doctor. They don't have one. Therefore, you are the only person that can help them. And the reason why the bias is so important for me to understand this is that the people who are not that have a normal income, the people who have a good education, who also live in the city, they don't call me. There's a bias in that the people that call me are the people that need those things. So therefore, it can't be everybody in the in the city that I work in is has low education and poor. That's just who I'm interacting with. And it has nothing to do with the color of their skin. And I was so thankful because I don't feel like I grew up with that bias. I grew up in a community where we had lots of different cultures and friends. I went to a fairly large church, and it wasn't a white church and it wasn't a black church. It was a church, it was a multi-generational, multiracial church, and that was really important. But I totally could see how if you continually interact with somebody and that person happens to look or talk a certain way, that you could develop a bias towards them. And it's so important that you realize that that exists. And I think when it comes to people, we all have these, and in some way it's okay. The other thing, I don't want you to feel bad when you have a bias towards an experience that you continually have over and over and over again. It was funny at my school. My wife teaches Spanish, and the principal brought in a piece of paper, and they buy their curriculum from a certain company. And for the elementary, they had all these pictures that were representing letters. They didn't have the letters, or they didn't have the letter next to it. They had it on the back. And this one was a man, and the letter was M. But the man had a black suit on with white lace, and he was holding a acoustic guitar, and he had a big sombrero on, and the M, it looked like they were trying to say Mexican. And the principal's like, this is just not right. This can't be. She's like, we got to do better than this. Thinking, that it was insulting that they portrayed a picture of a Mexican man, and then that's what they were teaching, that the letter M was for Mexican. Now, it could have been mariachi, like a mariachi band, or maybe it just could have been man. But it seemed like it was clear that they went out of their way to make it significant towards a Mexican man for the letter M. And the principal was upset about this. Like, we can't put this out. We have to do better. And my wife said, it's not insulting to call someone from Mexico a Mexican. And I think that took the principal back a little bit, because she felt like, well, we're being biased because we're making a judgment based on how somebody looks. And that's okay. Mexicans are okay with being calling Mexican. And if there's a cultural or if there is a way of looking at somebody and it's typical, it's okay. That's okay. As humans, it is okay to operate on bias, but you need to know that is biased. A very good test that if you're thinking, I'm not biased at all. Imagine you came to see me in Detroit. We're going to go see a Detroit Tigers game. And we have a great time at the game, and you're going to walk back to your hotel. I say, I'll see you tomorrow. And you start walking back to your hotel, and you make a mistake. You go down the wrong alley, and you're a little bit lost. You get your Google Maps out, and you realize, oh, yep, wrong block. I got to get back. And the way to get back is either you can go left down an alleyway or right down an alleyway. And while Detroit, I think, is becoming an amazing place to be, it's still somewhat dangerous. It is still up there in the murder capitals of the world. Not downtown, but probably, a little further out. You realize I'm probably in a bad spot. And you look down one alleyway and you see somebody, and you look down the other alleyway. And I'm going to tell you, if you make the wrong decision, you're going to get robbed. They're not going to kill you. They might rough you up a little bit, but they are going to rob you of what's in your pocket. And so as you look down the alleyway, you look to the left and you see a woman, and you look to the right and you see a man. Now, based on bias alone, based on what you've known in the world and how you feel, what decision you're going to make. And I'm not going to tell you the right or wrong way. But based on all those things, and those are biases, you're going to make a decision. And I'm telling you, it's okay. It's okay at that moment that you're making a decision on what every life experience you've ever had to go towards the man or towards the woman. We can change it up. We could say that there's two men. We could say there's a white man and a black man. And I'm not telling you what the right or wrong way is, but there's going to be a bias. And that's okay. You don't have the information. I'm gonna change it up again and say that the white man, it looks like he's homeless, and the black man is wearing a suit. Changes things. I'm going to say that there's a Mexican man or a Latin man and an Asian man. As you go down the list, you could probably know the decision you were going to make. And none of them are right or wrong, and it doesn't make you a racist because you think one way based on the color of somebody's skin. But the important part is that you realize you're making decisions based on bias. So that when you actually get more information, you get to know somebody, you meet them, you stop making decisions based on what they look like, and you judge them by the content of their character. That's what's important. There's a lot of people who go through the world with a belief that is unchangeable. I've had this experience, and therefore every experience after this is going to be exactly the same and not changing. And that is a terrible place to be. I want you to live in a world with an open mind. I think it's important that we hold on to facts and we hold on to faith. I think those things are important. But be willing to change your mind. Have beliefs that are very loosely based. When you hear a great song, I don't care what it is. You said, I'll never like a Taylor Swift song, and then all of a sudden she sings one, like, man, that just speaks to me. You just became a Swiftie. You never liked broccoli, try it again. You hate flying, try it one more time. It can be worth it. Planes get better. Things change. Don't get stuck. Especially when it comes to people. I don't care what your experience is. You have a bad take on Irish, which if you're listening to this today, happy St. Patrick's Day and the day it releases. Just be willing to change, and I think you'll have a better life. I know I have. I know it's something I struggle with. I hold some pretty strong beliefs, and I think it's I've been in the process of trying to be loose with those beliefs. Hang on to them until I see otherwise. And I think I've lived a better life because of that. I hope you live a better life if you take this into heart. And I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. My name is Danny Dumas, and I will talk to you later. Bye.